Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another 5x3 Radio podcast. Me and Rebecca. Again, no Diego. Diego has moved on to greener pastures.
We need to stop
no, he's not dead. Don't worry. He's, we got him for a couples podcast, and maybe we'll bring him back. Just a quick note that this podcast coming out today will be the only one for the month of September. We've got a lot of busy, crazy schedule. I'm going to vacation. Rebecca's dealing with her pigs. And
that sounds ridiculous.
I know, but it's true.
Do you want to give any context?
and the goats.
The
we
pigs,
can talk about
the
that.
Goats, the turkeys, the sheep.
Exactly.
It's county fair.
County fair. She's dealing with the county fair. So the county fair is coming up, and it's always the month of September. So she's busy with that. We're going on vacation. So we thought, okay, we're just going to take the month off for September. So this will be the one and only podcast for September, and we'll be back in October. And just a quick note, contest is coming up on Sunday, September 12th, the Charm City Strong Woman Contest. It's our 10th year. And if you'd like to make a donation, you can go to our website, 5x3.com, and click on the blog post that talks about the contest. I think there might be a link actually in our podcast info section too, where you can make a donation to the contest. We'd love to have you help us make our goal this year, as we've had in years past. Should be a good day, hopefully. And the next one will be probably in June. We're actually going to move the contest to June. So getting into our podcast today, we thought we should talk about training while stressed, or I guess training under stress, or how would you want to phrase this? Because there's lots of ways to talk about this.
I was sort of thinking about it was more like training while dealing with profound stress or some sort of issue that's actually really traumatic.
Yes.
As opposed to, I think we've talked before about training around a hectic or busy life, or work goes off the rails, or that sort of thing.
Yes.
So schedule craziness. But I think a lot of times that is also accompanied by some sort of, mental stress component that can be pretty profound, depending on the person and depending on what's going on. Maybe, like we were just talking earlier about you getting ready for the Strong Woman competition, which is an event that is meant to raise funds for Ullman. And every year when you're doing that, it sort of brings back memories of something traumatic, of your sister's death. So like something along those lines that maybe has, like a deep, profound level of emotional trauma associated with it. And that can have, I think, a different type of effect. And obviously, not a doctor.
Right.
You're not a doctor.
We're not doctors.
We've just been through some things ourselves and watched clients go through some things and have maybe just observational level perspective on how something that is profoundly distressing can affect someone's training. And it's sometimes a hard thing to recognize, because I think, we live in a culture that sort of values strength. I mean, whatever. So we're talking about a strength podcast, but that's also just like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, F your feelings, keep going, that sort of thing. And people reach a breaking point. Like you can go along to get along, or you can manage until you can't. And so it's sort of like that tipping point training while at that tipping point is a little bit more what I'm talking about. And a lot of times there's like super stressful things that can happen that are related to work where you can see the horizon, you can see the end of that, the end zone, when it's going to be over. There's a time frame to it. In other situations, maybe it's something, like a traumatic event that you somehow relive every year on a regular basis, or maybe it's something that that you don't know how or when it's going to end. I'm thinking, in my case, something related to a child's physical or mental health that's very disturbing.
Right.
Something where you can't see the end. You don't know where how it's gonna turn out. I don't know from personal experience, but like I would imagine going through a divorce or that sort of thing would be similarly stressful.
Yeah.
And like you were saying beforehand, it's sometimes tough to recognize those things. I think not only because of cultural influences, but also because there's no actual visible physical injury.
Yeah. A lot of times I know, I mean, when you mentioned this topic to me, I mean, my first thought went immediately to when I started training 11 years ago. And I've written about this in a few blog posts. And I feel like I have the only my sister was diagnosed with colon cancer 3 months after I opened my gym. So I opened my doors the end of June of 2011, and she was diagnosed September of 2011. So 2.5 months.
Yeah.
All my clients know was my sister sick, right? I mean, because by that point I probably started getting more clients. So all my clients ever knew, my members knew, was my sister had cancer. They never knew Charlotte before that. So I had been training for a year, right, prior to getting certified and opening the gym and getting going. And I'd been teaching at the dance studio. And now I was here, with the new gym and a new program and new way of looking at strength. And my sister gets sick. My sister's diagnosed with cancer. That next month after I found out, my training took a nosedive immediately.
Yeah, what happened?
My body reacted. I was dancing too. I started dancing with the company, and my body just shut off physically. Like I could not physically find the mental fortitude to pick up a barbell. So I remember I did a month of kettlebell work. And that's all I did. I just made my programs centered around just something different, something, completely different than what I had been doing, because I didn't have literally the mental fortitude to just get under a bar and do that. Physically, it hurt. There was nothing wrong with me. That was the thing. It's like, there's nothing physically wrong with me, but because I didn't know where this was going, she was having surgery, then she was starting chemo. Like, as you said, I didn't know where the end was. So my body needed time to kind of figure out this new way of like dealing with something in my life that had never been there before. My grandparents had died from cancer, but nobody in my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, my immediate family, exactly. No one, we'd never been sick. No one had ever had anything, a heart attack, nothing. I mean, a healthy family, extremely healthy. So it was just a mental block, and I just couldn't get under the bar. And then eventually I got back under the bar. But I have told people over the years, since I've been open and since I've been training, if you look at my logbook from 2011 till now, it is a roller coaster ride, because you're not only talking about the 3.5 years that she was dealing with the cancer, but then when she died in 2015, then I had to deal with her death. Then I had to deal with my niece and nephew moving to Colorado with my brother-in-law. Then I had to deal with my own relationship with my brother-in-law.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack.
Which has not been an easy,
nothing is right.
It's not easy to navigate.
No one, you have to so the stress that has occurred has been always typically since her diagnosis, because we were so close. I mean, we were 20 months apart, my sister and I. I mean, so we were almost twins, and everyone thought she was the oldest always. So my training, even though I had to remind them, no, I'm the oldest. Really? Charlotte acts a lot older than you.
She's so much more mature.
She's so much more mature, and she was. But my training had to reflect what I was feeling, and I had to respond to that. I mean, there were days, and I think this is what we can get into talking about what to do. I mean, I had to tell myself, you can't do that. You can't do that weight. You better back the fuck off, or else you're going to hurt yourself. I mean, I had to really have a lot of talks with myself as to what weight I could push, what weight I couldn't push. A lot of like taking weight off the bar, and it was all physical issues that had nothing to do with like physically being hurt.
Yeah.
But just,
well, I think in our culture too, like there's this idea that your body, your mental health and your physical health are two separate things,
right,
that they're not interconnected.
Right.
When in actuality, I think, again, not a doctor, but like a lot of people feel stress in a physical, painful way in their body. You know, like people like with their neck or their shoulders get, jammed up, or their low back or whatever, that sort of thing, like stressed out, and you're, fight or flight, and your shoulders are up in your ears all the time. And eventually your scaling muscles cramp up, and, they're hypertonic and pissed off and whatever. And that affects the way you're going to move in life in general anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone when you're trying to move something significantly heavy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
no,
for me, when that sort of thing happens, like I've had twice now over 6 years, once a situation that was, I guess I would say sort of, I guess I would characterize it as something akin to PTSD, like an event that triggered trauma from an assault when I was in my 20s. And then just recently, just all of the stuff that's going on, and then concern about one of my kids' health. And like to the point where it's like, I'm getting ready to deadlift and I can't see the bar through the tears that are falling onto the floor. Right. And then I go to pick up the bar, and the way it processes for me always is with deadlift. And the bar just won't come up off the floor. I'll put a weight on there that, like, by all reasonable accounts, I ought to be able to lift, and for a couple of reps, because I did 2.5 or 5 pounds less than that the week before, and it won't budge. And it's always deadlift, which pisses me off, because that's the lift I love.
It has nothing to do with your strength. Like, it wasn't that
that
you all of a sudden can't deadlift. It has everything to do with your mindset and where your mind is. And sometimes the weight room should be a stressless endeavor, right? We should go in there and just let our stress go, let it all go. Sometimes we can't. We try to, but we walk in, it happens to you, and you can't. You want so badly to de-stress this way, and yet it can't. It won't move. It won't budge. And it's crazy, because you're like, but nothing's physically wrong with me. And yet.
And so then you have this sort of choice, and you kind of described this, right? When you're talking about how you addressed this when it was going on with you, when you're starting your gym and your sister gets her diagnosis, and you kind of come to a decision in the moment while you're lifting. Okay, am I going to keep trying to push this, or am I going to and risk an injury, or am I going to peel some weight off? And I'll tell you, the first time I went through this, I didn't have the wherewithal to say, I'm going to peel weight off. I'm like, I'm going to keep fighting this. I'm going to keep fighting gravity and fighting my body and keep trying to pull this. And, then I tweaked something. Yahoo. So now I have 2 problems to deal with. Thankfully, there's like plasticity of the brain and growth and that sort of thing. So this time when the bar didn't move, I was like, you know what? I need to move pigs. I need to move goats. I cannot afford to have a tweak right now. I'm going to peel the weight off. I'm going to do what I can. And also we can talk about this a little bit too, but for me, this go around, that involved sort of preemptively redoing my program, recognizing where I was, seeing the timeline for when these stresses, or some of them, might possibly abate, and deciding I don't want to keep fighting my body for the next 3 weeks. I'm going to rework my program so that it's something that I can do and feel good while doing. And damn if I'm not, like, I have a note in my log from yesterday next to squat, which I hate. There's a little like, heart and like, OMG, I'm loving these. Right? When has that ever happened? Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the net result, though, is I set myself up to do a different program that made me, made me feel like I could do it. I could do it. I felt positive about it instead of walking out of the gym at the end of the day with a back tweak and disappointed in my inability to do what I had set out to do.
This is the hard part for many people who they may not recognize that there's something stressful in their life, that's they're going through something. And again, because they may feel like, well, yes, they know that there's something going on, but the gym should just take care of it. I should just be able to still lift because the lifting will take care of it. It'll mentally and physically make me feel better. And then all of a sudden it's not. And they keep pushing and pushing as opposed to recognizing, wow, that's actually affecting my training. And if I really want to continue and enjoy this and get something out of it, I need to drop that lift maybe, or drop the weight, or, do just one set and not push the 3 sets just because the program calls for. I mean, I think we get stuck in this mindset of, well, the program calls for this, and either they have a coach, and the coach I think the coach, if the person's a good coach, will understand and should recognize, you know what? You told me last week X, Y, or Z. Like I've done with many of my clients when they have come in and something's bothering them and their back is bothering them. And I say, it's not your back. Your back hurts you because remember you told me last week that you're going through this with your husband, and they go, oh my God, you're right. Because it wasn't that. I mean, and they recognize that. Like Laura, Jesse's wife, is a teacher. And she started back to school. Well, 2 weeks prior to that.
It's not stressful to start school at all right now.
No, right. 2 weeks prior to that, she said, she said, Emily, my back is starting to hurt. And she goes, it's not the deadlift. I'm like, of course it's not the deadlift, Laura. You're starting school in 2 weeks. It's anxiety. It's anxiety. And sure enough, she said, I know. But she knows that. She recognizes that. She's not going to not deadlift. She knows that it has nothing to do with that bar on the floor. It has everything to do with what she is anticipating. And hey, why not start, back to school in still the middle of a pandemic? Nothing stressful about that. Nothing stressful about children and parents and masks and this and that and, school boards but the fact is she's learned enough to recognize that it was nothing to do with that weight, and it's everything to do with where her mind is. And when she was able to kind of just feel that, it went away. And when she started back to school, it went away.
That's like a recognition that I think is harder for some people than others. The one that I think people catch on to a little bit easier, like when things get hectic or out of control and they realize that they're not eating properly because they had multiple meetings at work that went back to back and they never had time for lunch, and then they show up and try and train, right? Like that's kind of a concrete thing that you can pinpoint. You can look at that and say, that's the issue, that's the problem. Or, like when they're losing sleep or, waking up in the middle of the night from stress, right? Yeah. That's like also like, oh, I recognize that. I recognize that as stress. But the stuff that you're able to like eat normally through or not, sleep normally through or not, but that is, just a different kind of profound stress that maybe is like harder for some people to recognize.
And I recognize because of, I mean, it sounds so, I don't know how this sounds, but because of what I went through, because of what happened to Charlotte, literally right when I opened my gym. And that's all I've ever known. And that's what, and I think I have an up. I have an advantage. I can empathize with almost everybody who walks into the gym, but because it's the roller coaster ride that my body went on during that time, like not just her sickness, but then subsequently her death. I mean, the day before she died, I remember it was a Tuesday and I went to the gym and I'm supposed to train. I couldn't even bike. I couldn't even get on the spin bike to do some biking. I literally lay down on the floor in the gym and was just crying because I knew she was dying, and she died the next day. My body was in such a state.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it was in such a state that it was one of those, like, how do you push through? How do you just, you can't. You have to accept the fact that this is where you are and you can't do anything right now. And that's okay. It's okay. Then I experienced so many things like that over the next 6 years too, since her death. The biggest one was a year after she died, was 2016. And I was having a lot of issues with my brother-in-law, and I wouldn't speak to him for many things I'm not going to get into. And my nephew wanted to have a sleepover at my house, and I had just been so like trying to avoid talking to his father. And finally, he just flat out asked me, and he was 8 at this point. He just said, Emmy, can we have a sleepover at our house? Can you ask Daddy? And prior to this, I couldn't squat to a fucking 18-inch box. I was trying to do box squats with like 65 pounds, and everything hurt. Everything hurt. I was injured. I was quote unquote injured. He said, can you ask Daddy? And I was like, I can ask him. I will email him. I can't talk to him, but I can email him. And I asked, can the kids stay the night? And he responded, yes. The next week, squatted just fine, 95 pounds, no box. The next week.
Yeah, that's interesting.
105 pounds. Fast forward 6 months, and I'm at the meet with you at Westminster doing 210 and nice. Deadlifting and pressing, right? I had the best training run I'd had in years, Rebecca, since that day when I said I made peace with myself because decided I had to put my nephew and my niece first before all this, my sister's children. And that when that happened, that was like March. The rest of the year was just nothing but PRs. I mean, just nothing but like, just it just rolled. The training program just rolled. I mean, I hadn't felt that good in 5 years since, opening the gym, beginning her diagnosis, everything, even her death. I couldn't believe it. And it was like, I had let so much go in that one email because I put them first.
It's like you found a solution and then the stress faded.
And
like
then
you found your way forward
right.
after that. Like,
and
it was to put the kids as a priority.
Unfortunately, it like a couple of years later, there was another hiccup, and then I had to like experience pain again. Got through that, then another hiccup. So there always when something changed, either good or bad, I would experience that and had to figure out how do I get through this. But that was where the pain was real, but it really wasn't. I wasn't injured. It was just manifesting itself.
This physically. Is like the mental and the physical are connected, and people don't always. I mean, I guess the thing is like somebody who suffers from depression would know that, right? That's their life experience. But when a person who doesn't typically suffer from depression has a deep and profound stressor like that, something very traumatic, and their body responds in that way, it, I guess, can be like for me, the first time I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't figure out why the bar wouldn't come up off the floor.
Right.
I remember because it was at the old gym, and I set the bar up on the rails to put the 45s on the edge to then move it onto the floor to start my warm up 135, put it on the floor, like tried to take it off the rack to put it on the floor, and it hurt. And I was like, why does this hurt? And I think I did maybe 2 or 3 at 135, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, I could not understand why my body hurt like that. I knew I was upset. I knew there was shit going on. But I didn't understand because I mean, some of that is maybe in my case, like I was coming from a cardio background, right? And so for me, it's like you go, you're stressed out, you run. Like I would
Right.
dissipate some of that
Right.
anxiety by running.
Right.
I didn't have to like focus and concentrate all of my energy and produce a great amount of force. It was just like go out and run on the street and flail around, right? Like run like Phoebe and Friends and feel better about it when you're done.
That's right.
but it was so my body responded to barbell training under stress very differently than it responded to cardiovascular exercise under training. And I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And I guess, the only point for people who are new to it is just like, I just, people should know that can happen. It's not, there's nothing wrong with them.
Right.
It's,
and having someone to reach out to talk to about that, because if you're training on your own, you may not recognize that that's what's going on. You may think that you really injured yourself. You may think that, what the hell happened to me? I'm pathetic. My program sucks, or, I suck. And not realizing like, your aunt died who you're really close to, a week ago. And even though the funeral's over and you might still be feeling pain from that. I mean, I don't think we recognize that because we think that this should take it away, right? This should just take it away. And that's what happened to me, 2018, when the kids moved to Colorado. That was like another hiccup. And I was trying to lift one day and everything hurt. And I made an appointment to see my doctor. And I just was in there and I was just in tears. And she said to me, Emily, I've known you a long time. She has. And she said, and you've been trying to do things non-pharmaceutical, which I admire, but maybe it's time to try something pharmaceutical. And I just looked at her and I said, let's do it. The less drugs I'm on, often the better. I don't want to I don't like to do that. And I try to be as, release a number of medications, but that was one thing I thought I needed it. I need something to help my depression and my anxiety, because now the children, my sister children, are no longer just down the street from me. Now they are halfway across the country. And it was another, Charlotte's not here anymore. So that's where I've been for the past, 4 years, 3 years now, 3 years. But she's looked at me and she said, I understand that the barbell is, you've been doing that as your therapy, as your mental therapy.
Right.
It's not always going to help. It will help to a point, right? It'll help to a point. And sometimes it is a matter of just switching up your program. Like I did that first, that month after she was diagnosed. I just stepped away from all of that and just focused on something else. And that really helped a lot. And sometimes that the person may need that, depending on what kind of stress they're under. They may need to just step away from their program and maybe just do some cardio, just go for a run if they like to run or bike, or maybe just do some yoga, or, just take a boot camp class. Something that's going to just let them move their bodies, let them sweat, and I'm not so that because there is the stress that we put our bodies under with strength training can also, interfere with us as well. The stress that we're under. So sometimes it might just be stepping completely away. Like I did. I stepped away.
Yeah.
And then I came back when I was ready and I stepped away again when I needed to, you have to figure out for yourself, or maybe have a coach. If you have a coach, help you, what's going to be the best path to move forward on given the situation now. And that can change in a month, couple weeks even, but for right now, being honest with I just really can't do this. I need something else. Can we switch things up? And a good coach should say, absolutely. What's going on? How much therapy do you do? I do a lot of therapy at the gym, in addition to coaching. And I think I can recognize stress in people a lot faster than they can recognize them themselves. Because I see myself in them, when they can't move, when something won't come off the floor. My older client, this was a couple months ago, he was deadlifting and his deadlift is great. And the bar wouldn't budge. And it turned out he'd had a fight with his daughter a couple of days before. And it was still on his mind. And he said that. I said, well, that explains it. He goes, no. I said, no, that explains it. It explains a lot. you can't focus on this because your brain is focusing on your relationship with your daughter and the fight you had. That's stress. You had a stressful, encounter with her. You're still thinking about it. You're her father. It's not like you don't feel anything for her. He's like, and then the next week, right back to where he was, like easy.
Yeah.
But,
and so, I mean, like kind of that sort of situation, like recognizing it might be something that's like a stressor like that has a fairly immediate solution. Like my mother-in-law calls them DMCs, deep meaningful conversation, right? So like a DMC in that case between your trainee and his daughter might resolve that situation. And then he can get on with what was his regular programming. In other cases, when it's something that's extending over a long period of time, maybe you change up the program. Something that's going to allow the person, the trainee, to maintain some consistency and some movement, and also hopefully be able to view their training, whatever shape it ends up taking, as something that adds to their life in a positive way, instead of something that at the end of a training session gives them another reason to feel like crap. Right. If they're already kind of there in the first place. So, and then like you also mentioned for yourself in 2018, like seeking medical help when it's warranted.
I see nothing wrong with that. I'm just putting it out there, everybody. I mean, I think that, there's a reason that they make, medication for people who need it for anxiety. It's a real thing. Anyone who's never gone through depression it's hard. People get, you just need to snap out of it. There's nothing to snap out of. Sometimes your brain needs to be rewired, and it can't rewire on its own. It needs a little bit of help.
But I was also going to say, like, another thing I think sometimes that can be helpful for people in a situation like this. I had a client who I've talked about her a little bit before, who 3 middle school aged kids, upper elementary school. They were doing school from home. Her husband was doing work from home all during COVID. It was very stressful. She got to a point where, success was going to be being able to, she was doing like 3 days a week, 3 lifts per day. And it got pared way down to, we've tried a couple different combinations of like 2 days a week of lifting, 2 lifts each day, even 1 lift each day for 4 days. And also adding in there a lot of just getting out of her house and getting outside. Like fresh air and sunshine is healing. And, it's a situation where if you're lifting at home in a situation where your kids are at home, your husband's working from home, all that sort of stuff, and you're lifting in your basement, like I got like dark, not very fancy looking concrete walls staring at me, little tiny window. It kind of feels like a prison cell. So getting outside and being out in nature. It's helpful for a lot of people too.
I think just in general, people who have busy schedules, right? People have busy lives. You don't, and maybe you're stressed at work. Telling somebody, hey, come in and just do 1 lift. Hey, just do 2 lifts. Hey, just work up to 1 top set and leave. There is that freedom to do that. And then that's even less stress on them because they're already stressed. And then they feel like they have to come in and do all 3 lifts because, well, that's my program. And when you tell them, no, you don't, just come in and do 1. And if you have time, you can do 2. And if you really want to get the second one in, here's an easy way to get it in without, doing sets across. This look on their face, you can just see they just relax. And they finish their session and they feel so much better. And then maybe they have to go back to work, but at least they're going back now, knowing that they've feeling accomplished. I have one of my clients who works right next door, but she's busy all day. I mean, even when she's at the gym, she's sometimes, on her phone. And I've said to her, come in and get 1 lift done. Come and get 2 lifts done. Her face lights up when she's finished because she knows she's done enough for herself, and she's still come in and she's still made it. She's still been consistent. And so she can move on with the rest of her day. that you take that off of somebody, that weight off of off their shoulders of, I have to do this, and you make them more stressed, is only going to make them more frustrated and possibly stop. And I don't want my clients to stop. I am a business, I do want my clients to come to the gym. I'm not gonna, right?
Come on, Emily, it's more altruistic than that.
Right. But I don't want my clients to feel, they come to me because they want to do this. And I want them to understand that there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? And knowing that makes them way more productive at the gym when they're there, and also more productive at work too. They know they feel better then, because they've done something. They've physically moved their bodies. Sure, if you have an hour and a half to train, good for you. That's great. And people do. Others don't have that luxury. You have to, and so giving them that half an hour is better than.
Sometimes people need help getting out of that all or nothing mindset.
That's right. There's that. Yeah. I mean, I could think of how many other people, have come to me and been, under a lot of pressure here or there, or stressed. And, I just try to give the same message. And I tell people, if you saw my logbook, if you know what I've been through, I can empathize. I get it. This is my happy place. Like I was visiting my mom on Thursday, talking to her about a few things that I had to get off my chest. And then she said to me, "Are you going to the gym?" I said, "Oh yeah." For me, I need that no matter what I do. And I've learned that, like, no matter what I do, I'm going to go and do something. And I've learned that because I did that with Charlotte. I did that for all those years. Every time I walk in the gym, I'm going to do something. I call it my vacuum injury from Monday. I was vacuuming at the gym with a stupid vacuum cleaner that I hate. And I think it tried to kill me finally, because Tuesday I tried to squat and my whole back seized up on me. By the time I got to my top set, I eked out my single that I was planning on doing, but I had to take the weight down to less than what I wanted to do. But I did it, and I carried on with the rest of my workout. Bending over to pick something up off the floor was not very. It was quite painful.
Not pretty.
Not pretty, but I did it, and I came home, and it's, and I've been putting icy hot on my back, and that was on Tuesday. And the only thing I could think of was the vacuuming I did. Diego's like, "How do you vacuum that you injured yourself vacuuming?"
Very aggressively.
I said, I vacuum very aggressively. I mean, I vacuum for an hour in that 4,000 square foot space. I'm getting, and I'm pulling the cord, and today I had a deadlift. And I'm doing more accessory deadlifting right now. So it wasn't like I'm doing a lot of heavy stuff, but you can think like the hinge. Oh my God, it's gotta be so painful, right, Emily? Best deadlift session I've had in weeks. My mindset was, I'm going to see what I can do. If I can pick up 115, I'll be happy. If I can hinge down there and grab anything off the floor and feel, fairly decent. Well, it turned into the best session I'd had in a few weeks. Simply because I was telling myself, I gave myself permission to just not complete the program as I had put down, as it was written. It was going to be what it was going to be. And it turned into a great session. It could have gone the other way. It could have been like, wow, my back is still really messed up from the vacuuming, but which is why I should not clean. I should just, because I shouldn't be cleaning anyway. But I have that attitude. I will always have that attitude. And I've had that attitude for 10 years now. I'm going on 11 years. And I try to get people to accept where they are and understand where they are and be okay with changing something as needed, because it will pass. Like I said, we always talk, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And, you will have a day where the bar will come off the floor, and you'll have a day where it won't come off the floor. And it's no judgment on you as a lifter. You're not weaker. Check what's happening in your life. What happened yesterday? What's happening in another day? What happened last week? I mean, we forget because we've moved on, we think physically, but maybe mentally we haven't moved on, from that experience. Or something will trigger something, something will come up, and it'll be we'll feel bad. Like yesterday was Jack's birthday. That could have been why I was in a weird state too. He was turning 14.
Oh,
yeah,
they grow up so fast.
They grew up so fast. I mean, he was 7 years old when Charlotte died, and now he's 14. That means it's going on 7 years.
Half his life.
It's like Charlotte would be so proud of him. She would just adore the young man that he has become, and that my brother's birthday was Wednesday. I was fine Wednesday. Thursday though was Jack's birthday. I felt a little different on that day, and that's going to happen. And I kind of accept that that's going to happen. I might have these moments where, shit, what day is it today? Or what month is it? Oh, it's Thanksgiving. Oh, that's her favorite holiday. Oh, it's Christmas. Oh, Christmas tree, presents, kids. I mean, it's just, so I kind of have to plan myself, plan around how's it going to go? Okay, I have this plan. I may have to change my plan. That's okay.
Well, it's having grace with yourself and being flexible with your programming.
Yes.
And maybe recognizing if there are things like you're saying that are annual that kind of stir things back up.
Yeah.
And giving yourself permission to be flexible with your programming during those times.
So I think to wrap up, because I know we both have to get going. In conclusion,
I gotta go weigh pigs, Emily.
Yeah, she has to go weigh pigs. In conclusion, it all depends, as we always say. It all depends, but there is such a thing as really checking in with yourself, and if you're not sure, maybe talk to somebody. Maybe just maybe talk to your coach if you have a coach. But again, I think the coach would be. If they're the good coach and the right coach for you, they might recognize what's going on and say, hey, is everything okay? Do we need to make some adjustments? Like, what's happening? And if you have a good enough relationship with your coach, that might, you might be able to explore some things and really make some nice changes that could help you get over that hump where you are right now.
Maintain consistency.
Exactly.
And get over the hump.
We could probably talk about this again. I think that, bringing up, discussing the stress might be another topic to down the road again in another manner, because there's a lot to say about this. And I don't think we really delve too much into it. There's a whole thing about depression, training with depression.
Right.
So that definitely could be another topic. That wraps up our podcast for today, everybody. If you've got questions, as always, or comments about anything that we've talked about, we'd love to hear from you. If you've got a story that you'd like to tell and you want to share with us and have us share with other listeners, pass it on to us. You can email me at emily@5by3.com or Rebecca
at cornerstonestrengthmaryland@gmail.com.
We thank you for joining us today. Yes.
Check out the 5by3 website for more information about the Strong Woman contest and ways that you can participate even from afar by making a donation to Ullman.
Like our friend George, who made a very nice donation. One of Rebecca's clients, and a 5by3 radio listener. Thank you, George. And many.
Hey,
Thank you, James. Thank you to all of our Fred. Thank you to many of our listeners who have made donations. It's greatly appreciated. We will be back in a few weeks in October. So get this one downloaded and listened to, and then we'll be back probably the beginning or second week of October with another podcast. And we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Rebecca.
Sweet. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to 5by3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5by3 training, please visit us at www.5, that's F-I-V-E, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.